Long before Morocco became a unified state or a recognizable kingdom, the land itself shaped the civilizations that would rise upon it. Positioned at the crossroads of continents and seas, it touched both the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean, while behind it stretched the vast Sahara and the towering Atlas Mountains. These contrasting environments created natural corridors and choke points, encouraging trade in some regions and isolation in others. Camel caravans pushed through the desert toward West Africa. Fishing vessels hugged the coastline toward Iberia, and inland routes curved around mountains toward the eastern Maghreb. Geography made the region a meeting ground rather than a closed world. The earliest societies to emerge in this setting were the indigenous Amazigh tribes, whose origins stretch back thousands of years. They lived in scattered settlements and seasonal camps, organizing themselves through clan federations and family lineages rather than a centralized state. Their society combined pastoral nomadism with agriculture, producing grain in fertile plains, herding livestock in highland pastures, and exchanging surplus goods along inland routes. They developed their own languages, spiritual systems, and cultural markers. From tribal symbols to oral genealogies, these Amazigh foundations endured through every conquest and dynasty that followed, forming the deep substrate of Moroccan identity that never disappeared. As maritime technology expanded across the Mediterranean world, the edges of this Amazigh homeland attracted new visitors. Phoenician sailors from the Levant reached the Atlantic coasts, drawn by metals, fish, and trade opportunities. They established small coastal outposts that served as warehouses and communication points rather than full colonies. These ports connected local Amazigh producers with distant buyers across the Mediterranean, creating a corridor for grain, salted fish, ivory, and purple dye. Over time, Carthage absorbed these Phoenician interests, transforming the coastal settlements into the western flank of a Punic trading network that stretched from Iberia to modern Tunisia. Although Carthage rarely dominated the interior, its presence linked Morocco to the economic world of the ancient sea. The most profound shift came with the rise of Rome. After defeating Carthage in the Punic Wars, Rome expanded into North Africa, reorganizing the northern Moroccan territories as the province of Mauretania Tingitana. Roman administrators fortified key cities such as Volubilis, Tingis, and Lixus, integrating them into the imperial system through law, taxation, and military oversight. Roman villas appeared in the countryside, built near fertile farmland and supplied by aqueducts, while urban centers adopted amphitheaters, bathhouses, temples, and administrative forums. Latin inscriptions, mosaic art, and new burial customs altered the cultural landscape. Christianity also spread gradually, first among Romanized urban populations, then into some Amazigh communities. Yet Rome's influence was never absolute. Its reach was strongest in the coastal plains and river valleys, weakening dramatically in the mountains and southern deserts. Beyond the walls of Volubilis and Tingis, Amazigh confederations continued to control vast stretches of territory, sometimes cooperating with Roman officials, other times resisting imperial demands. For centuries, the region functioned as a frontier zone, urban and Romanized in the north, tribal and autonomous in the interior. By the 5th century of the Common Era, the Western Roman Empire faltered and eventually collapsed under internal decay and external pressure. Vandal forces crossing from Iberia seized parts of North Africa, disrupting the old Roman order. Later, the Byzantine Empire attempted to reclaim coastal footholds, but their presence remained thin and contested. Neither the Vandals nor the Byzantines rebuilt the provincial system that Rome had created, and as imperial structures disappeared, Amazigh groups reasserted political control. Small kingdoms, chieftaincies, and tribal coalitions filled the vacuum, governing the interior and managing their own trade and diplomacy. On the eve of a new era, North Africa was no longer a Roman frontier, but a region guided by its native societies, still linked to the sea, still connected to trans-Saharan routes, and increasingly independent. This was the landscape into which a new religion, a new language, and a new political direction would soon arrive, changes that would permanently transform Morocco's identity and its place in the world. The transformation of Morocco began in the 7th century when a new political and religious force pushed west across North Africa. Arab-Muslim armies under commanders like Uqba ibn Nafi and Musa ibn Nusayr advanced through the Maghreb, capturing major towns and building garrisons that linked the region to the expanding Islamic world. Their campaigns brought new alliances, new military structures, and a new religious identity that would eventually reshape the population. Though at first, control remained limited to strategic corridors and coastal centers. Local Amazigh tribes did not submit easily or uniformly. Some fought fiercely to defend their autonomy, while others negotiated alliances and converted on their own terms. Among the most famous opponents was a tribal leader remembered as al-Kahina, who rallied forces in the Ores region and resisted the Muslim advance for several years before being defeated. Her story illustrates how the coming of Islam was neither simple nor instantaneous. It was a complex mixture of conflict, diplomacy, and gradual integration. Over the next decades, Amazigh communities adopted Islam in large numbers, but they remained socially distinct and occasionally at odds with the distant Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates. Tensions over taxation, representation, and religious authority fueled the Great Amazigh Revolt in the mid-8th century, a major uprising that cut the Maghreb off from direct Eastern control. When the revolt ended, local autonomy dominated the political landscape. The region was now Muslim in faith, but largely independent of the caliphal courts in Damascus and Baghdad. Amid this environment of fragmented rule, a new political experiment began that would leave a permanent mark on Moroccan identity. A descendant of the Prophet Muhammad named Idris ibn Abdullah fled Abbasid persecution and sought refuge among the Amazigh tribes of the western Maghreb. Welcomed by local leaders and recognized as a religious authority, he established the Idrisid state around the late 8th century. His son, Idris II, expanded the territory and founded the city of Fez. From that moment, Fez grew into a center of learning, law, and administration, attracting scholars, merchants, and craftsmen from across North Africa and Al-Andalus. The Idrisid state represented the first clear articulation of a Moroccan Islamic polity, distinct from the Eastern caliphates, rooted in local alliances and built upon the combined heritage of Arab lineage and Amazigh support. Though the dynasty would later fragment into competing branches and lose territory to rival groups, it left behind an enduring legacy in urban culture, religious scholarship, and state formation. As Idrisid power weakened, new political energies emerged far to the south. In the 11th century, a reform movement among the Sanhaja tribes of the Sahara coalesced around a strict religious agenda and a powerful leadership structure. Known as the Almoravids, they united desert confederations, controlled trans-Saharan trade, and marched northward to reshape Moroccan politics once again. Under Yusuf ibn Tashfin, they founded Marrakesh as their capital, consolidated control over the Maghreb, and extended their influence into Al-Andalus, where they intervened to defend Muslim principalities against the rising Christian kingdoms of the Iberian Peninsula. This new trans-Mediterranean empire marked the second major phase of Moroccan state power, one that connected the deserts of West Africa with the cities of Spain and tied Moroccan fortunes to battles being fought on European soil. It also set the stage for the next great wave of reformers, who would attempt to surpass the Almoravids and redefine the region's identity once more. The Almoravid Empire that had extended Moroccan authority from the Senegal River to the Ebro soon faced a new challenge in the 12th century. In the High Atlas, the reformer Ibn Tumart denounced Almoravid rule and gathered followers who believed in strict monotheism and religious discipline. After his death, leadership passed to Abd al-Mu'min, who transformed the movement into a unified state. The Almohads captured Marrakesh, dissolved Almoravid power, and made Morocco the center of a larger Maghrebi Andalusian realm. Under Almohad rule, the Maghreb from Tripolitania to the Atlantic was unified, and much of Al-Andalus came under Moroccan influence. Monumental architecture flourished, including the Koutoubia Mosque in Marrakesh and sister works in Seville and Rabat. Scholars and jurists found patronage, and the Almohad state reached a cultural and territorial height unmatched before or since. But in Iberia, the Christian kingdoms consolidated strength, and in 1212, a united Christian coalition defeated the Almohads at Las Navas de Tolosa. Though the dynasty survived for decades, The defeat led to political fragmentation and accelerated the Christian reconquest in Spain. By the mid-13th century, Morocco's Almohad Empire had broken apart. From this decline emerged the Marinids, a Zanata Amazigh dynasty that captured Fez and made it a center of learning and religious scholarship. While the Marinids occasionally intervened across the strait to support Muslim Spain, they never reconstituted a trans-Mediterranean empire. Internal factionalism and shifting alliances weakened them, and as their control eroded, Portugal and later Spain seized coastal enclaves, beginning with Ceuta in 1415. The Wattasids briefly inherited power but lacked the strength to repel Iberian forces or unify the country. In the south, however, the Saadians rose from the Sus region, unifying tribes and religious networks. By the mid-16th century, they expelled the Portuguese from most coastal strongholds and restored territorial integrity. Their defining moment came in 1578 at the Battle of Wadi al-Makhazin, the Battle of the Three Kings, where a massive Portuguese invasion collapsed, preserving Moroccan independence. Under Ahmad al-Mansur, the Saadians reached their peak and pushed across the Sahara, crushing the Songhai Empire to control West African gold routes. After al-Mansur's death, succession struggles fractured Saadian authority, making space for a new regime from the Tafilalt Oasis, the Alawites. By the 17th century, they re-established central rule and consolidated the provinces. Moulay Ismail built a strong military apparatus, stabilized rural regions, and maintained Morocco's independence at a time when the Ottomans dominated North Africa and European fleets patrolled the Atlantic. In the 18th century, Mohammed III pursued commercial diplomacy, opened Morocco to global trade, and in 1777 became the first foreign sovereign to recognize the independence of the United States, later formalizing ties through the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. In the 19th century, European industrial and military expansion shifted the balance of power. Morocco faced foreign defeats, economic pressure, and regional uprisings. In 1912, it was partitioned into French and Spanish protectorates, with Tangier made an international zone. The Alawite monarchy survived symbolically, but colonial officials held real power. Resistance erupted in multiple forms: rural guerrilla movements, urban nationalism, and the remarkable Rif uprising under Abd el-Krim in the 1920s, which forced Spain and France to coordinate militarily to suppress it. After World War II, nationalist mobilization intensified. When the French exiled Sultan Muhammad V, mass protests and armed actions erupted across the country, pushing France and Spain toward negotiation. Morocco regained its independence in 1956, and the Alawite monarchy transitioned from symbolic figurehead to active sovereign power. Under Mohammed V and Hassan II, Morocco consolidated its territory, built state institutions, and navigated Cold War politics. Under Mohammed VI, the country continues modernization and diplomatic engagement while balancing its layered identity, Amazigh roots, Arab Islamic institutions, Andalusian memory, Saharan ties, and a continuous monarchy that bridges pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial eras.